Hello everyone, it's me Arden Lee. I am back again today with another video, and in today's video I want to talk about the fact that if being responsible for your life was easy, then we would all do it. um, Before I jump into that, if you're not already familiar with me or with my work, my name is Arden Lee, and I am the creator of the Repatterning Project, which is an 8-week course in which we take responsibility for our lives. We examine all our habits and patterns and the choices and where we put our focus and all those things that are under our control, so we can look at that and we can start optimizing all of those pathways in order to create results in our life that we want, that we are in alignment with. If we're not getting the results that we want in life, then it's up to us to take that power back and start figuring out what is under our control and how we can change those things, how we can see more possibilities in front of us, how we can expand our beliefs to include more possibilities of a bright future for us. And all of that falls under the realm of our own responsibility regarding all of the choices we make, no matter what hand we were dealt with, when we were given the situation that we were born into. We were not all dealt the same hand, but we do all play by the same rules. So that's a little bit about what I want to talk about today. If that sounds interesting to you, by the way, go ahead and look at the description box, and you're going to find a link to a free PDF guide to the Repatterning Project, so you can learn a little bit more about what we do and whether it's right for you, whether you maybe want to join us. Our next iteration of the Repatterning Project starts in January 20th, 2019. So go check that out. And if you have some more questions, or you're just looking to source some support, you can go ahead and also click on the link in the description box to the Repatterning Parlor, which is the free group that I curate on Facebook for like-minded individuals who are interested in receiving support on their paths toward personal growth and self-improvement. So go ahead and give that a look, and come join us. Come say hi. If you do join the group, make sure to make a post introducing yourself and let me know where you found it. So without further ado. All right, what I want to talk about today is the fact that if being responsible for your life was easy, we would all do it. It's not easy, and this week in particular, I've experienced a number of beliefs and feelings and energies coming up to be addressed, and I found myself last night. Someone asked me for a recommendation to a bar, and I was like, oh, what was that place, that I went to a couple of years ago in that neighborhood or whatever. So I was looking on my Instagram to find out. I was like, I know I took a picture there. I bet I could find the name. And that sent me down like the last 4 or 5 years of Instagram posts, and I started looking at all these pictures of my former self from when before I decided to actually start taking responsibility for my life and for what I was creating. And at that point, I was still trying to be worthy, by fitting a certain standard, essentially. And I was also doing a lot of modeling, which was not financially sustainable for me necessarily, but certainly looked quite glamorous. And it was certainly fun, and it was certainly worthwhile. But I think the thing about modeling in particular, at least in the way that I did it, was something that was that was fun and cool, and that I enjoyed quite a bit, and that looked really cool, and that was fun to post about. But it wasn't really creating a sustainable life for me, and it wasn't in alignment with taking responsibility for the results that I was getting. So I do know models who have really taken a responsibility for their careers, and they update their social media really regularly. In addition to going out there and being very proactive about their careers. So I'm not gonna judge modeling as being a way of not taking responsibility for your life. But looking back through my own past, I could see where I felt that just achieving this goal of being attractive should have been enough. I was like, oh, look at me, why isn't this working more? I'm a model, and I'm a lingerie model in particular. Shouldn't this be solving everything? Aren't we sold that fantasy that if you can just be that, if you can just look like that or whatever? that the world will value you and take care of you. And that's obviously, we've found out that that is obviously not true. So, but what was so different about that point in my life was I was really going around quite blindly, you know, in terms of really taking responsibility for creating a life that made me happy. I was, I was in and out of toxic relationships. I was not creating work that was in alignment with my purpose in the world. I sometimes, maybe tried to. There were certain things that I was very smart about. There were things that I could speak very articulately on. It's not that I wasn't smart, but I wasn't really creating something for myself that would sustain me and would have a large impact on the world, that in the vein of what I was capable of doing, or at least in the vein that I am now capable of doing. And I had a chat with my business coach today, because on today, in particular, when you're really turning that yacht around in the ocean and you're really starting to make deep, scalable, long-term changes to your life, it's hard. It is hard, you guys. It is really not easy at all. And I got this sort of like wistful nostalgia for the way that I used to be, when I sort of just blamed other people and channeled all of my energy into toxic relationships and had all of my expectations completely mismanaged regarding them, and all these times that I just felt so comfortable playing small, even if I didn't think that I was playing small, because I was like, who would call that small? I was like, I'm a lingerie model and I'm a published author and all this other stuff, but really, I guess playing small, the hard way to learn that lesson is that playing small is really relative for where you are, and there are a lot of ways to play small and still look like you're not playing small, and try and fool yourself when really you're actually not really living up to your potential and doing the work in the world that you're meant to, and that you're meant to have an impact with. It's like, wow, if you you can do some things that that can garner you accomplishments and accolades, but if you're really not setting yourself up for that sustainability and that long-term happiness and peace and that creative freedom and sovereignty, then that's really the whole difference. It doesn't really even matter what field you're in, because everyone's purpose can be in a different field, but it really is about taking control and taking responsibility for your life and for the results that you get. So there I was, looking back through my Instagram, kind of reminiscing on this easier time in my life. Of course, it's not really easier, it's harder, but it's hard because you're fooling yourself into thinking that it's easy by avoiding the hard work, right? So it's actually the harder path is the easier path in many ways, because I guess, and vice versa. It's that it's not easy to take responsibility for setting your life up to be the way that you want it, and to invest in yourself and your own success. It's not easy, but it's easier than not doing it, even when it looks hard, right? Because really it's wasting our potential and blaming external forces that may be the path of least resistance, that feels easy in the moment, but really results in a life that is much more difficult, for us in the long run, even if we're unconscious about it and we're being kind of blind about it and just blindly blaming other things, because that feels easy. So I've reached a point in my life now where there's really not a lot that I can complain about in terms of the results I'm getting, without looking at myself and looking at where I'm responsible for creating that, and that's not to say that I'm victim blaming myself or whatever. That's not to say that that bad things don't happen to me. And just a couple of months ago, I got hit by a car that was pulling out of a parking spot. That wasn't my fault at all. I didn't create that, right? But I am in control of how I respond to it, and I am in control of, how I let these energies affect me. And I'm also in control of, like, hey, am I building myself a life where, having a random car accident is going to completely throw me off my entire game? Or am I starting to really, take my financial freedom seriously? Am I starting to build something that is, that is sustainable for myself, so that if shit does hit the fan, that I'm okay and I'm protected, right? Because ultimately, nobody's going to do that for me but myself. And it's hard, you guys. It's really, really hard. I'm in the middle of learning all of these these things about business that I'm going to have to learn if I want my work in the world to really reach its full impact. I'm learning all of these things that are like, I explained to my coach today. I was like, bro, I was like, this feels like memorizing a choose your own adventure book. Like, not only is it's not like memorizing like a flat text, it's like memorizing a whole tree branch of figuring out where everything goes, right? Like automated emails, like if they click yes to this and no to that, then what do they get sent next and whatever, and this whole big system that I have to learn. And also, in terms of finances, in terms of setting up accounts, where does that flow of money go, right? It's like if I make a sale, where does that go? Do I reinvest it in the business? What do I pay myself? What do I invest in my other businesses? Since I've got, essentially, 3 different projects that are kind of under the one umbrella of, me and my life and what I'm creating and what I'm funding. How do I know what to do? And so I was like, it's not even just like memorizing one choose your own adventure book. It's like memorizing 5 of them, you've all these different branches. And I was like, there's no one here to tell me what to do or like how all these systems work. And I feel like there's so many gaps in them, and I'm just not sure what to do. And he was like, Arden, there is no one to tell you what to do but yourself. He's like, I'm here to help you set up things and to understand things and to answer your questions as you go. But ultimately, if you wanted someone to run your business for you, that's $250,000 a year job. Nobody can do this for you but yourself. And I'm super pouty about it, and I'm super frustrated, and that's why I'm channeling this into a video today, because I'm here to teach myself as much as anyone else, or rather, I am here to reinforce what I know is right, even when I feel like whining about it, right? Because no matter how far we get on the path, we may still be tempted to whine, because as our power increases, our responsibility increases. And so it feels like, like the more expansion I call in, the more and more plates I'm spinning in the air. And I'm like, I never signed up for well, I did sign up for this. I totally did. But I was like, man, where is that life where someone just like hands me a job, or just like, where is that life where someone signs me to a modeling agency and I just get all these gigs or whatever, where is that thing where I'm not responsible for making sure that all these things, like, where is the person to tell me what to do? Because I'm coming out of this paradigm where I was so conditioned into giving away my power, because it's fucked up. As children, we're not sovereign beings. We're not allowed to claim our power, and so many of our formative beliefs, our formative experience, our beliefs get set during these formative experiences when we're children and adolescents, when we don't have any power. And I've talked about this in some of my own personal trauma on here before, but essentially what it boils down to is that before you're 18 years old, there's only so much freedom you can call in for yourself legally in this country, in this day and age. So I was conditioned to believe, like, no, you're not allowed to set your own boundaries. You're not allowed to do what you want. You actually have to just listen to all these authorities around you. And it became conditioned that was very dangerous for me to try and set my own boundaries and take responsibility for my own life. So I was like, okay, and you shrink back and you edit yourself back a little more. And even if in my mind, I may have known, like, okay, once I turn 18, I'll be in much more freedom. Those traumatic imprints don't just go away until we really pick them apart and dissect them. And for the next several years of my life, the next, decade or so of my life, I was, giving so much of my power away in relationships. I was saying, like, just tell me what to do. I identified as a submissive, as a sexual submissive and service-oriented submissive in the BDSM community, precisely because it was so much easier for me to say, like, just tell me what to do. Like, and the amazing thing is when I was told what to do, I could do it so well. As long as I had someone to report to and be like, hey, how did I do? Like, how is this? And I could do great. But I'm at a point in my life now where there's no one to report to but me. And sometimes I hate it, you guys. Sometimes it sucks so much. And I just want to whine about it forever. But I know, of course, in my heart that I know that nobody can give this to me but myself, and I could take a risk by waiting around and, seeing which person wanted to invest in me and create a role for me to step into where I wouldn't have to manage any of the details. But even in that case, you guys, even in that case, I would be at the mercy of that person who is investing in me, and it would compromise my own voice. So if I really want to stay true to myself, retaining that creative freedom and retaining that sovereignty is going to be the thing that is best for me. And unfortunately, what that means is I have to know all the inner and outer workings of all of the systems that I'm working within. And the more expansion and the more greatness and responsibility that the more power that I call in, the more responsibility I have, and the more systems I have to learn, and the more spinning plates I have to handle, in the air. You guys may have seen a couple weeks ago, my band released a song. We did a holiday cover of Mary Did You Know that I was really proud of, and the person on my team who was responsible for premiering the song leaked an unfinished version of it. And I look at that and I love to like blame, and point fingers or whatever, and like certainly there were internal repercussions, that I enforced after that as a result of someone making such a critical mistake, when that's really the bulk of their job that they were doing for me. But at the end of the day, I really can't blame anyone but myself, because nobody is responsible for my career but me. And I did not look at the final version before it got premiered, because I was assured that everything was all set and all on track. So I was like, okay, cool. And I can say like, hey, this wasn't my fault, somebody else did this. But at the end of the day, I also know that nobody is responsible for my career but me, right? They're responsible for their career, and if I fire them, that's their responsibility. But ultimately, no one is responsible for me but myself. So I just wanted to point this out, because I did have that bit of nostalgia last night where I was like, man, my life sometimes felt like it was so much easier when I wasn't taking responsibility for it, when I was just being blind and I was complaining about all these different things, and complaining about people not treating me well, or complaining about my relationship sucking, or complaining about the fact that no one was handing me the job that I wanted, or whatever it was, and feeling like life was unfair. And I certainly don't actually want to go back to that time, because I can't turn back now. I've already set this intention, and it's what I want to create for myself. It's just that like some days it's hard. Some days it's hard being responsible for your life, even when you know that no one else is going to do it for you but you, and you're claiming that power. It's not always easy, and if it was, then we would all do it. But at the end of the day, what really separates those people who achieve that real sovereignty and that real greatness for themselves are those people who are taking that responsibility and not sitting around and waiting for someone else to do it for them. So it's really your choice, it's really your choice at the end of the day, whether you want to be that person who just blames everything else externally and waits for life to get handed to them, or if you're someone who decides like, all right, no one's going to do this for me but myself, so I might as well learn to do it. No time like the present. So I certainly know what I'm choosing, even when there are days that I feel like being whiny about it, and that will happen. And as we know, also when things feel difficult, it's often the contraction before the expansion. And I feel pretty sure that I had the same sort of a whiny response the first time, in the first couple weeks that I was trying to make 10 YouTube videos a week, and I was like calling up my coach and being like, oh my God, this is so hard, and now that part is relatively easy, and I'm just adding more and more and more to my plate as I keep going. So my intention is just to create more and more room and more space to hold all of that power and responsibility. But it's scary. It's scary stepping into that bigness, and it's scary letting go of the person that I once was, who just sought that outside approval and just sought that outside direction for herself. So it is what it is. I won't sugarcoat the path. I won't say that it's easy, because it's not. But again, it is really the thing that separates those who are really in control of the results that they're getting in their lives from those who are just sitting around and complaining about not getting the results that they want in their lives. So I know what choice I'm making, and I certainly know what choice I hope you make as well. And I hope this was useful to you. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.